am Precious Antalisik Baral.
And we are your hosts for today.
My name is Johanna Piantares. And I am Aramay El Sardurio. We are the speaker for the Implementing the Design Curriculum as a Change process.
I'm Jaymar Ramirez Pusubu, your speaker for lesson implementing the curriculum daily in the class.
Hi, I'm Danica Medinilla, one of your speakers for this webinar that will discuss the second part of implementing the curriculum daily in the classroom.
Hi, my name is John Mark Mancada, and I'm the speaker for the role of technology in delivering the curriculum.
I am Princess Enrica Puta, your speaker from Lesson 3, the role of technology in delivering the curriculum.
Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Vic Anthony Silva.
And I am Precious Auntie Baral, your host for today. Please prepare for our opening prayer and nationalistic song before we formally begin our webinar.
Hubarin ang takot sa iyong damdamin, ipamalas ang angking galing.
Tumayong mong tapang harapin ng buhay, yakapin ang tagumpay.
Tulungan ang kapwa't bigyang halaga, wag hatakin ng pababa.
Isipin wag sana ang sarili lang, pakisama't bayanihan.
Subukan nating isulong at ligawan ang
Magandang bukas, ikaw at ako magkasama tayo. Salubungin ang kinabukasan.
Today, we are presenting Chapter 3, Implementing the Curriculum. The teacher as a curriculum implementer and a manager, presented by our respected presenters. Just a little bit reminder. Before we begin, if you have questions and inquiries, please put them into the question box on your settings screen below. We will bring them up after the presentation.
Now, without further ado, we will turn the time over to presenters. one of your speaker for implementing the design curriculum as a change process. Let's start to define curriculum implementation. Define curriculum implementation. The following curriculum models of Tyler, Taba, Saylor, and Alexander R. Lewis is the next step of curriculum design, which is the curriculum implementing. Ito yung yugto kung saan gaganap ang guro or kikilos siya para sa estudyante. Isa ito sa pinakang mahalagang proseso sa curriculum development. Bagaman, maraming mga educational planner ang nagsasabing, a good plan is work half done. Sinasabi na ang kalahati ng tagumpay ng curriculum development ay nakasalalay sa mga kamay ng tagapagpatupad or sa guro. According to SADCMOE Africa 2000, curriculum implementation means putting into practice the written curriculum that has been designed in syllabi, course of study, circular guides, and subject. Ito ay isang proseso kung saan makakakuha yung mag-aaral ng nakaplano or nilalayon na kaalaman, skill at attitude na naglalayong ng bigyan ng daan ng same learners upang gamitin ito ng effective sa ating society. Ornstein and Hankins in 1998 defined curriculum implementation as the interaction between the curriculum that has been written and planted and the person, teachers who are in charge to deliver it. Para naman kila Ornstein and Hankins, ang curriculum implementation ay bilang interaksyon sa curriculum na isinulat ng teacher at sa teacher na naghahatid nito sa student. To them, curriculum implementation implies the following: shift from what is current to a new or enhanced curriculum. Second, change in knowledge, action, and attitude of the person involved. Third, change in behavior using new strategy and resources. Last, change which required effort, hence, goals should be achievable. Lux and Lieberman, 1983, defined curriculum implementation is a trying out of a new practice and what it looks like when actual use in the school system. Nangangahulugan lamang ito na ang pagpapatupad ay dapat magdala ng ninanais na pagbabago at improvement. In the classroom context, curriculum implementation means teaching what has been written in the lesson plan. Implementing means using the plan as a guide to engage with the learners in the teacher's learning process, with the end in view that learning has occurred and learning outcomes has been achieved. Sa curriculum implementation ay involves ang different strategy ng pagtuturo na nakasuporta yung mga instructional material. At alam naman natin ang instructional material, ito ay kasama sa mga strategy na ginagamit. In a large scale, curriculum implementation means putting the curriculum into operation with a different implementation agent. Ang curriculum implementation ay nagaganap sa isang klase sa paaralan, district, at division or sa whole educational system. In higher education, curriculum implementation happen for the course, degree program, the institution, or the whole higher educational system. Ang curriculum implementation ay nangangailangan ito ng mahabang oras, pera, personal interaction, personal contact, at suporta. And now, let's proceed to curriculum implementation as a change process. Kurt Lewin, 1951, the father of social psychology, explained the process of change. Ang model ni Kurt Lewin ay maaari nating gamitin upang ipaliwanag ang curriculum change and implementation. The educational landscape, there are always 2 forces that oppose each other. These are driving force and the restraining force. Two forces. Driving force are those seeking change. Kapag ang driving force ay overpower, yung restraining force ay magkakaroon ng pagbabago. At meron siyang example, ang example ng driving force ay yung increasing efficiency, no strength and skill. Resisting or restraining force are those seeking to maintain the status quo. Kung kabaliktaran ang pangyayari naman, ang restraining force is stronger than the driving force ay magkakaroon ng pagbabago o mapipigilan ito. And example of restraining force are fear, lack of training, and lack of incentives. In addition, ang goal ng driving force is to gain equilibrium or a balanced power. Sa restricting force ay i-control yung status quo, habang ang driving force ay naghahanap ng pagbabago. Lewin's force field theory. This table is based on Lewin's force field theory and also an example. When these two forces are equals, the state is equilibrium or balance.
Magkakaroon ng status quo, kaya walang pagbabago, ang situation or condition ay mananatiling pareho. We shall use these theories to explain curriculum change. According to Lewins, ang pagbabago ay maaring mas mabuti kung ang restraining force ay mababawasan sa halip na dadagdagan ang driving force. Thank you and may God continue to bless us.
So, let us look first at the different changes that occur in the curriculum. It is important to identify this as a part of our understanding of curriculum implementation. Categories of curriculum change. McNeil 1990s categorized curriculum change as follows. First is substitution. The current curriculum will be replaced or substituted by a new one. Sometimes we call this a complete overhaul. Ang halimbawa nito ay ang pagpapalit ng lumang libro sa isang ganap na bagong libro. Ay hindi lamang ito isang revision. Second is alteration. In alteration, there is a minor change to the current or existing curriculum. For example, sa halip na gumamit ng graphing paper para sa pagtuturo ng mathematics, maaari itong baguhin sa pamamagitan ng paggamit ng graphing calculator. Third is restructuring. Building a new structures would mean major change or modification in the school system, degree program, or educational system. Using an integrated curriculum for the whole school for K-12 require the primary and secondary level to work as a team. Halimbawa, ang isang curriculum na muling isasaayos kapag may significant involvement. Process of change may contain three important elements. First is developmental. It should develop multiple perspectives, increase integration, and make learning autonomous, create a climate of openness and trust, and appreciate and affirm strengths of the teachers. There are simple stages in the developmental change process for the teacher. First is orientation and preparation. The initial use is very mechanical or routinary. However, as the skills are honed and mastery of the routine is established, refinement follow. So, sinasabi lang dito na ang mga pagsasaayos ay ginawa upang mas mahusay na matugunan ang mga needs or pangangailangan ng mga mag-aaral at makamit ang mga resulta ng pagkatuto. Second is participatory. For curriculum implementation to succeed, it should be participatory. especially because other stakeholders like peers, school leaders, parents, and curriculum specialists are necessary. Characteristic of teachers' styles, commitment, willingness to change, skills, and readiness are critical to implementation. Ang participatory ay dapat itong kasama sa organizational structures, principal styles, student population characteristic, at sa iba pang factors. So, participation build a learning community which is very necessary in curriculum implementation. Last is supportive. Curriculum implementation is required in the process of change. Material support like supplies, equipment, and conductive learning environment like classroom and laboratory should be made available. Gayon din ang suporta ng tao na very much needed talaga. Kinakailangan din na yung school leader or head ay mag-provide ng full school or institutional support para sa pagpapatupad ng bagong curriculum. They too have to train to understand kung paano tugunan ng pagbabago ng curriculum bilang bahagi ng kanilang pagtuturo, gayon din ang mga tungkulin sa pamamahala. Thank you for listening.
So, good day everyone. Let us now proceed in discussing Lesson 2, Implementing the Curriculum Daily in the Classroom. So, sa Lesson 2, we have a desired learning outcome. And these are the following. First is, review the components of a daily plan for teaching. Second is, identify intended learning outcomes. And lastly, match learning outcomes with appropriate teaching methods. So, sa daily lesson plan ay dapat naka-align sa written curriculum na kung saan this written curriculum ay isang writing and documented for teaching mula sa Department of Education. This written curriculum has 5 components. First is concepts, second is knowledge, third is skills, fourth is attitudes, and lastly, action. Na kung saan ang mga mag-aaral ay nabibigyan ng oportunidad na makatamo ng mga mahalagang kaalaman and for them to be able to develop an understanding concept in which it allows them to make connections throughout their learning. And sa end ng lesson, teachers must find out if the students have truly learned from the discussion. So, let us now proceed to the DepEd order. So, DepEd order number 70, series 2012. Teachers of all public and elementary and secondary schools will not be required to prepare detailed lesson plans. So, ang mga teacher ay maaaring mag-adapt ng lesson logs or yung pang-araw-araw na ituturo nila sa mga mag-aaral. And it may come from the teacher guide or TG and teacher manual or TM. These two are reference material with page number, interventions given to the students and remarks to indicate how many students have mastered the lesson or a needing remediation. But those teachers with less than 2 years of teaching experience should be required to prepare daily lesson plans na kung saan naka-include dito ang objectives, subject matter, procedure, assessment, and assignment. So bilang prospective teachers, so kapag sinabi po natin prospective teachers, ito yung mga nag-aaral ng education. And in the future, they will spend more time in real teaching situations. So, you are expected to prepare lesson plans that will comply with the necessary components asked by the Department of Education. So, yung mga teacher na nagtuturo sa private schools ay maaaring maiba yung kanilang lesson plan format. Pero yung mga mahalagang parts or nilalaman ng isang lesson plan ay naka-indicate dapat ay kapareho ng nasa public schools. So, in everyday class, a teacher must have a written lesson plan and it has 5 parts. Kagaya na nasabi ko kanina, kauna-unahan ng objectives or intended learning outcomes or ILO. The second is subject matter or SM. The third is procedure or strategies of teaching. And the fourth is assessment of learning outcome or ALO. And the fifth one is assignment or agreement. So, let us now tackle the objectives or intended learning outcome. First, ito ay nakafocus ang isang lesson sa dapat matututunan ng bata. And the learning outcomes are based on the taxonomy objectives. And kung saan ang taxonomy objectives ay ang cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. Kapag po sinabi nating cognitive, ito ay nakafocus sa intellectual skills gaya ng critical thinking, problem solving, and creating a knowledge base. Kapag sinabi naman nating affective, it focuses on the attitudes, values, interests, and appreciations of the learners. So, the hierarchy associated with begins with receiving. So, nagmumula ang kaalaman sa pakikinig ng mga estudyante sa kanilang kaguruan. And it extends to characterization or internalizing values and consistently acting upon them. At ang panghuli naman ay ang psychomotor. It encompasses the ability of learners to physically accomplish tasks and perform movement and skills. So let us now tackle the Bloom's taxonomy. These two are similar, pero the higher level of cognition in revised version ay creating. And sa original version ay nouns, which is the Bloom's taxonomy 1959, and the revised is stated as a verbs, na kung saan itong revised Bloom's taxonomy ay more active form of thinking. So there are 3 major changes in the revised taxonomy. These are first, changing the names in the 6 categories, kagaya nga po ng sinabi ko kanina, from noun to verb. And second is rearranging these categories. And last is establishing the levels of the knowledge level in the original version. Ngayon naman ay atin naman pag-aralan ng cognitive categories. So, sa remembering, halimbawa nito sa isang play, mga mag-aaralin na tatandaan yung mga role at mga character sa isang story. And another example for this is the multiple choice, na kung saan ma-assess ng mga teacher kung may natatandaan ba mga mag-aaral sa talakayan. The next one is the understanding. Dito ay naiintindihan at naiipaliwanag ng mga mag-aaral ang kabuuang kaisipan sa isang talakayan. So the next one is applying. Dito naman nagagamit ang mga learnings sa other discipline or subject sa kanilang pagkatuto. At kung nai-apply ba ng mga mag-aaral yung kanilang natutunan sa real life situations. So the next one is analyzing. Ang halimbawa nito ay sa isang kwento ulit, na kung saan may identify ng mga mag-aaral ang bida at kontrabida sa kwento at kung bakit at paano sila naging antagonist and protagonist. And next one is evaluate. Evaluate the decisions of characters in the play and support your evaluation with textual evidences. So learners will consider the rationale and consequences for actions in the play, leading them to understand and make judgments about the validity of a character's decision making. So the last one is creating. So learners must integrate the plot devices and writing techniques into a new setting allowing them to practice their creative writing skills and showing their full understanding of the writer's techniques. So, in writing objectives or intended learning outcomes, it is always recommended that more of the higher order thinking skills or HOTS should be developed and less of the low level thinking skills, LOTS, and thinking skills progress as the categories move higher. So, dapat daw sa learning outcome, ang madedevelop ay yung higher order thinking skills or yung HATS. So, let us now proceed to the level of knowledge. First is the factual knowledge, ideas, specific data, or information. So, it is a common type of knowledge. It is the basic information about the particular subject or discipline that students must be acquainted. This may include the terminology and the specific details or elements of a subject. So, acquiring factual knowledge is important to students because it serves as a basic building blocks to understand the larger relationships among important information that define a subject. So, the next one is conceptual knowledge. Words or idea is known by a common name, common features, multiple specific examples, which may either be concrete or abstract. So the next one is the conceptual knowledge. Words or ideas known by common name, common features, multiple specific examples, which may be either concrete or abstract. Concepts are facts that interrelate with each other to function together. So, understanding of the principles and relationships that underlie a domain. Working memory may be required to activate conceptual knowledge in long-term memory. The next one is the procedural knowledge. How things work, step-by-step actions, and methods of inquiry. So, when we say procedural knowledge, it refers to the knowledge of how to perform a specific skill or task and is considered knowledge related to methods, procedures, or operation of equipment. So, procedural knowledge is also referred to as implicit knowledge or know-how. So, the last one is the metacognitive knowledge. Knowledge of cognition in general, awareness of knowledge of one's own cognition, thinking about thinking. So, it refers to what individuals know about themselves as cognitive processors, about different approaches that can be used for learning and problem solving, and about the demands of a particular learning task. So let us go to the intended learning outcomes or ILO. So it should be written in a smart way. So S stands for specific, M for measurable, A for attainable, R for result-oriented or outcomes, and T stands for time-bound. So subject matter or content comes from a body of knowledge, facts, concepts, procedure, and metacognition that will be learned through the guidance of the teacher. Subject matter is what in teaching. In a plan, this is followed by the references. So, subject matter or content is the areas of creating forums for teaching and sharing knowledge. Sharing knowledge content in academic circles refers to areas of learning and the knowledge within those areas. So, subject matter, on the other hand, is more finely described as the actual knowledge and learning to be imparted to the students. So, the last is procedure or methods and strategies. So, this is the important point of curriculum. In curriculum implementation, so on how a teacher will put life to the intended outcome and subject matter to be used depends on its component. So this method is a way something is done and perhaps used for routine tasks. So this is a strategy usually requires some sort of planning. So you are probably use a strategy when faced with a new situation. For example, is the strategy to win a game. So that's all and have a good day everyone.
Good morning, everyone. And now, to continue the discussion, let's talk about some points to remember on how teacher can arrange a teaching learning situation that will engage students to learn. We know that all students are unique, so a teacher should know different approaches or methods to cater their learners. There are different approaches or methods that can be used based on corpus and salandanan. Some of these methods are time-tested methods, while others are non-conventional constructivist methods. When we say time-tested methods, it is a method that has been used for a long period of time and has been proved to work well. While the non-conventional constructivist methods are teaching methods and techniques which contrast with the traditional education. It is a constructivist approach, where the students are the one who construct their own knowledge. The first method we have is the direct demonstrations methods. It is a process of teaching where the teachers directly tells and show what is to be taught. Under this method is the guided exploratory or discovery approach. In this approach, hinihikayat nito yung mga student na bumuo ng mga kasanayan at makakuha ng mga kaalaman by actively working with informations na nakalap nila. Maaaring magbigay si teacher ng question, then si student yung magdi-discover ng kasagutan dun sa question niya with the guidance ni teacher. Next is the inquiry method. It is a student-centered approach. The students are actively involved in teaching and in their own learning with also the supervisions of their teacher. The next one is the problem-based learning. Ito ay isang paraan ng pagtuturo kung saan yung complex real-world problems ay ginagamit as an instrument para sa pagkatuto ng mga mag-aaral. The last one, under the direct demonstration method, is the project method. In this method naman, nagkakaroon ng kaalaman at kasanayan ng mga mag-aaral by working on an authentic, engaging, and complex questions, problem, or challenge for the intended period of time. Next to direct demonstration methods is the cooperative learning approaches. This approach is an instructional method in which students work in similar groups para ma-accomplish nila yung kanilang common learning under the guidance of a teacher. At sa pamamagitan rin ng approach na ito, they can discover and help each other to learn a new concept together. Under these approaches are the peer tutoring, learning action cells, and think, pair, share. Peer tutoring is a method of teaching in which students are paired together to practice academic skills and master content. Dito, yung kapwa nila estudyante, yung tumutulong sa mga students to learn academically, socially, pati na rin sa behavior, and social skills. Maaaring gumamit ang mga teachers ng peer tutoring upang tumulong na maka-accommodate yung classroom na may diverse students na nangangailangan ng higit na individualized attention. Then we have the learning action cells o yung tinatawag na lock session. Ito ay grupo ng teachers na kung saan nagkakaroon sila ng collaborative learning sessions para ma-resolve yung mga shared challenge or challenges na nararanasan nila sa school. Ang LAC session ay pinangangasiwaan ng pinuno ng paaralan o ng mga LAC leaders. Then we have the Think, Pair, Share or TPS. It is a collaborative learning strategy where students work together to solve a problem or answer sa questions about an assigned reading. Sa strategy na to, kinakailangan na ang mga mag-aaral ay mag-isip ng individual tungkol sa isang paksa or dun sa sagot sa isang tanong at mag-share ng mga idea sa mga kaklase nila. Then we have the deductive or inductive approaches. A deductive approach to instruction is a more teacher-centered approach. Nangangahulugan to na binibigyan ng teacher ang mga mag-aaral na ipapractice binibigyan ng mga mag-aaral ng isang bagong konsepto at ipaliwanag ito at pagkatapos ay ipasanay ito doon sa mga mag-aaral na gamitin yung konseptong itinuro ni teacher. While yung inductive approach naman ay kabaligtaran ng deductive. Inductive learning is also known as discovery learning. Ito ay isang proseso kung saan natutuklasan ng mag-aaral ang mga panuntunan sa pamamagitan ng pagmamasid dun sa mga halimbawa na ibinibigay naman ni teacher. Under these approaches are the project method and inquiry learning, which are also under the direct demonstrations methods na nabanggit ko na rin earlier in our discussion. We have the other approaches, and these are the blended learning, reflective teaching, integrated learning, and outcome-based approach. Blended learning is method of teaching that integrates technology and digital media with traditional instructor-led classroom activities na nagbibigay sa mga mag-aaral ng more flexibility for their learning experiences. Then, the teaching reflective, ito ay isang proseso kung saan iniisip ni teacher yung kanyang kasanayan sa pagtuturo. Nag-a-analyze si teacher kung paano ituro ang isang bagay at kung paano maaaring mapabuti o mabago ang kasanayan for better learning outcomes. Then, next is the integrative learning. It is an approach na kung saan pinagsasama-sama ng mga student ang dati na niyang kaalaman at ang mga nakaranasan upang suportahan ang mga bago niya namang kaalaman or yung mga experiences ngayon. Then we have the outcome-based approach. It is completely student-centered. Nakatuon ito sa kung ano ang inaasahang matutunan at gawin ng mga mag-aaral sa halip na sa inaasahan na ituro ni teacher. Sa pag-arrange ni teacher ng isang teaching learning situation that will engage students to learn, dapat laging tandaan ni teacher that the students have different learning styles. Teachers have to take consideration that the different strategies should match with the learning styles of the students. And we have here three learning styles: the visual, auditory, and the kinesthetic. These styles can help teachers choose the methods and materials they will use in teaching. We have the first is the visual. Alam naman natin na in visual, we use our sense of sight. Para mabilis ring maunawaan ng student yung lesson, they use graphs, charts, pictures, na nakatutulong ito para maalala ng students yung mga bagay or lesson that is written in forms. For teachers, they can turn notes into pictures, diagrams, and maps. May students nga kasi na mas natututo if they engage in a visual discussion. Next is the auditory, which relates to the sense of hearing. Students recall information through hearing and speaking. They prefer to be told how to do things orally and they learn aloud. May mga students na mas prefer naman nila na naririnig nila yung lesson. Mas mabilis para sa kanilang maunawaan yung mga lesson kapag ipapaliwanag sa kanila orally. May mas focus sila sa sounds rather than seeing or doing things. For teachers, they can record lectures para mapakinggan ng mga students. Then, pwede rin nilang ulitin yung mga discussions, lalo na yung mga malalalim na lessons para mas matandaan ng mga learners nila. The last one is the kinesthetic. Yung mga students under this style, they prefer hold-on approach. It's hands-on approach. Demonstrates how to do things rather than explain, as well as group work with hands-on, minds-on. Hands-on, minds-on refers to learning while doing something. Ito yung mga students na natututo through multitasking. It can also associate in learning by doing. Another point to remember by the teacher is teaching learning situations that teaching and learning must be supported by instructional materials. Considering the teaching methodologies and the learning styles, the different support materials should be varied. This will ensure that the individual differences will be considered. Now, I will discuss to you the cone of learning of Edgar Dale. Sa cone na ito, ipinakikita na ito yung percentage na naaalala natin through hearing, seeing, and doing after 2 weeks. First, let's start to the highest percentage, which is yung 90% of what we both say and do. Tulad ng mga activity na doing a dramatic presentation, simulating real experiences, and doing the real thing. These activities are under the active nature of involvement. Kapag sinabing active, ito yung nagre-require to the students to actively engage in the activities like discussions, problem solving, case studies, role plays, and other methods. It also encourages conversations and debate. For teachers, they can use direct forceful experience through learning by doing. Kasi almost of all learning outcomes ay nagre-retain sa ating memory. Yung mga activities na pwedeng gawin ay field trip, field study, community immersion, and practice teaching. Community immersion ay yung ginagawa during your senior high school. Then, tapos yung field study and the practice teaching naman ay na-experience ng mga nasa 4th year level students. Next is the 70% of what we say. Yung mga instances na maaaring mag-retain yung 70% ng memory ay yung participating in a discussion and giving a talk. And ang nature of involvement naman ito is receiving or participating na isa ring active activities. Yung pakikipag-participate in class activities, discussion, reporting, at iba pang mga activities na nagbibigay ng chance sa learners to say and write. Di ba minsan, after a week or 2, tapos magkakaroon ng quiz, and then yung coverage ng inyo na is yung report mo. By that time, nung ni-report mo, is nare-recall sa'yo yung mga lessons na na-discuss mo. So, ibig sabihin, nare-retain sa'yo yung 70% of knowledge about sa inireport mo. Yung iba, Yung iba or yung iba pang mga activities na nakatutulong to retain your 70% of knowledge is yung small group discussions, individual reporting, na pangkaraniwan ng ginagawa ng mga student. Role play and panel. Yung panel is a few person na nag-uusap sa harap ng mga audience, sumasagot sa mga tanong, nagbibigay ng opinion tungkol sa isang bagay. Sa mga naririnig at nakikita natin, 50% yung nare-retain sa atin. Mula sa mga activities tulad ng watching a movie, looking at an exhibit, watching a demonstration, and seeing it done on location. Ito, yung mga activities na ito is a visual receiving and under the passive nature of involvement. When we say passive, it requires our learners to observe, assimilate, consider, and interpret to render information. Next is the 30% of what we see. Based dito sa cone of learning ni Dale, 30% lang yung nare-retain when we took a pictures or when we look at pictures, paintings, drawings, or kahit na anong bagay na ginagamitan natin ng visual. Then, the 20% of what we hear, it is the hearing words like lecture, sermon, at iba pang mga activities na nag-engage in hearing. Ipinapakita dito ni Dale na mahirap ma-retain yung learnings kung naririnig lang yung lessons or discussions. And lastly, yung may pinakamababang percentage that we can remember after 2 weeks, which is the 10% of what we read. Madaling makalimutan yung binasa natin, lalo na kung walang comprehension or pag-unawa sa kung ano o kung saan tungkol yung binasa natin. Next thing to remember by the teacher is the methods and materials must implement the plan or the taking action. Ang paggamit ng mga teacher sa lesson plan in 2 years or less than ay basic steps and parts of prescribed by DepEd Order 70 Series 2012. Excuse me. And it has been discussed by Mr. Buso-Buso earlier. I will just show you a lesson plan example of Araling Panlipunan. In this lesson plan, it consists of 5 parts. And like what I have said, it has been discussed by Mr. Buso-Buso, so I will not discuss it to you again in detail. Let's see if what's on this lesson plan met the desired content. In first part, we have the objectives or layunin. In this example, mayroon itong 3 objectives that consist of the 3 domain, which is nga yung cognitive, affective, and the psychomotor domain. Then, the second part is the subject matter o yung nilalaman. Dito, matatagpuan yung paksa, mga gagamitin sa pagtuturo, pati na yung source ng lesson na ituturo ni teacher. Sa ikatlong part ay yung pamamaraan. Andito na yung motivation, discussions, paglalahat or conceptualization, at yung paglalapat or application nung natutunan ng mga students about dun sa lesson. Sa ikaapat naman na bahagi, dito na ini-assess at ina-evaluate yung learning outcomes ng mga student. Kung may natutunan ba sila sa discussion o kung may mga kailangan pang i-improve yung mga learners, pati na rin si teacher in their way of teaching. At yung panghuli naman ay yung pagbibigay ng assignment. Maaari itong para sa paghahanda sa susunod na discussion or maaari namang pagdagdag kaalaman pa para sa naging discussions noong araw ding iyon. Isa pa sa dapat tandaan ng teacher in teaching learning situation is finding out what has been achieved. assessing achieved outcomes. At the end of the activity, teacher will find out if the intended learning outcomes or the ILO have been converted into achieved learning outcomes. Ang assessment of the learner's mastery sa mga layunin or dun sa objectives ay nagbibigay ng sukatan ng pagiging epektibo ng isang course or ng subject. Ang ilan sa mga paraan ng assessment ay recitation, questionnaires, surveys, interviews, observations, tests, and so on. So, this is the end of my report or my discussion, rather, and I hope that you've learned something from me, and I'm glad that I have been given the opportunity to share my knowledge with you. Thank you, everyone, and good day.
Zombie kayo, di ba?
Uhaw na kami.
Zombie ka na ba? Mag-Gatorade ka.
If you want a beautiful hair, use recipe.
The role of technology in delivering the curriculum. The role of technology in the classroom arises from the E-Philippine plans. E stands for electronic. As said, an electronically enabled society is one in which all citizens live in an environment that delivers quality education, efficient government services, more sources of income, and eventually, a better way of life through enhanced access to appropriate technologies. This emphasizes the necessity for an e-curriculum or a curriculum that provides learning in line with the information and communications technology revolution. Ipinapalagay ng paradigm na ito na ang paghatid ng curriculum ay gumagamit ng ICT bilang isang mahalagang instrumento sa edukasyon. At ang mga user ay gumagamit ng mga kasanayan sa pagtuturo sa pagkatuto na digitally compatible. Ang katulad na konseptong ito ay dulot ng isang pananaw para sa mga guro na maging mga tagapagbigay ng may katuturan, dinamiko, at pambihirang mga programa sa edukasyon sa isang post-industrial at teknolohiyang lipunang Pilipino. Ito ay batay sa isang prototype na nakabatay sa mga resulta ng syllabus. Ang pagpapolish ng mga kasanayan ay isa sa mga layuning pang-edukasyon na dapat isulong ng mga kakayahan at kasanayan ng isang bagong lahi ng mga mag-aaral, na ngayon ay tinutukoy bilang isang henerasyong may kakayahang bumasa at sumulat na bumabase sa 3 R. Na ito ay ang in reading, writing, and arithmetic. But also more specifically, problem-solving fluency like text, image, sound, video, retrieval fluency, social networking fluency, media fluency, and digital creativity fluency ay mga halimbawa ng information access at retrieval fluency. Sa instructional media, instructional media may also be referred to as media technology or learning technology. Technology plays a crucial role in media technology, or learning technology are other terms for instructional media. When it comes to delivering instruction to students, technology is critical. Technology provides a variety of learning aids, including from non-projected media to projected media. Non-projected media, these are real objects, models, field trips, kits, printed materials katulad ng books, worksheets, visual like drawings, photographs, graphs, charts, posters, visual boards katulad ng chalkboard, whiteboard, flannel board, etc. and audio materials. At sa projected media naman, ito ay ang mga overhead transparencies, opaque projection, slides, film strips, film, video, VCD, DVD, computer, multimedia presentation, from which the instructor can select based on what he believes. Sa projected media naman, ito ay mga katulad ng overhead transparencies, opaque projection, slides, film strips, films, video, VCD, DVD, computer, or multimedia presentations, from which the instructor can select based on what he believes is appropriate for the intended instructional setting. For example, will a chalkboard presentation enough to illustrate a mathematical technique? Or will a video be required to motivate students? Object matching occurs as a result of this process, in which the instructor chooses which media or technology to use to help in the achievement of the learning objectives, delivering instruction to learners. Technology offers various tools of learning and these range from non-projected media from which the teacher can choose, depending on what he sees fit, with the intended intended instructional setting. For example, will a chalkboard presentation be sufficient in illustrating a mathematical procedure? Will a video be needed for motivating learners? In the process, what ensures is objective matching, where the teacher decides on what media or technology to use to help achieve the set learning objectives. Well, there is some factors in technology selection. In deciding on which technology to use from a wide range of media available, the factors on which to base selection are: number one is practicality. Is there any equipment or lesson material available or ready to go? If not, how much would it cost to buy the equipment or create an audio or video version of the lesson? Number two is appropriateness. Well, there is some factors in technology selection. In deciding on which technology to use from a wide range of media available, the factors on which to base selection are: number one is practicality. Is there any equipment or lesson material available or ready to go? If not, how much would it cost to buy the equipment or create an audio or video version of the lesson? Number 2 is appropriateness in relation to the learners. There's a question that is the medium appropriate for the learners' comprehension abilities? Will the media be a source of pure enjoyment or entertainment but not of education? Dahil maaring hindi makapag-focus sa mag-aaral sa pinakang tinuturo ng guro kung ito ay masyadong nakakaagaw ng atensyon. Number 3, activity or suitability. Will the chosen media be appropriate for the specific educational event resulting in information, motivation, or psychomotor display? Kinakailangan pa rin maging akma ang gagawing aktibidades sa pagtuturo ng maayos. And number 4, objective matching is the medium, in general, helpful in accomplishing the learning objectives because it is all about how can you help your students to learn better and become an effective educator.
I am one of your speaker for the rule of technology and curriculum delivery. It can easily be observed that technological innovation in the multifarious fields of commerce, science, and education is fast developing such that it is difficult to foresee the technological revolution in the millennium inclusive of educational will make its impact on delivery of more effective, efficient, and humanizing teaching and learning. In terms of education, the rule of technology and curriculum activity ay gagawa ng mas mabisang epekto upang maging epektibo ang pagtuturo at pagkatuto. But presently, we can identify 3 current trends that could carry on to nature of education in the future. The first trend is the paradigm shift from teacher-centered to student-centered approach to learning. The second ay, ang edukasyon ay hindi lamang isang paghahatid ng mga makatotohanan na impormasyon, but an educative process of cultivating the cognitive, affective, psychomotor, and much more the contemplative intelligence of the learner of a new age. But the third, and possibly the more explosive trend, is the increase the use of new information and communication technology or kilala as ICT. When it comes to the third trends, hindi naman lingid sa ating kaalaman na tayo ay nasa makabagong panahon na kung saan umuusbong ang paggamit ng mga teknolohiya. Despite the challenges and concern, it's crucial to remember the advantages of technology and education, which include better cooperation and communication, higher educational quality, and exciting classes that encourage students to use their imagination and seek information. It is easy to see how technology innovation is rapidly evolving in a variety of disciplines such as business, science, and education, to the point that it is difficult to predict the technological revolution in the millennium, including educational changes. In other words, the learner learns the content presented by technology in the same way that the learners learn knowledge presented by the teacher. Technology aids the learner in developing more meaningful personal interpretations of life in constructivist manner. It is a tool to learn with rather than from it requires the learner to gather, ponder, analyze, synthesize, and generate meaning using the technologies available. It acts as a medium for representing what the learner already knows and is learning. For now, the primary rules of educational technology is delivering the school curriculum's instructional program have been identified. First is upgrading the quality of teaching and learning in school. Ang resulta ng pagkatuto ng mga mag-aaral ay natural na gaganda kapag ang guro ay may isang mabuting kalidad. Ang mas mahusay na input ay katumbas ng mas mahusay na output. Ito ay isang kinakailangang bahagi ng akademikong tagumpay. Ang patuloy na pag-unlad at pagpapalawak ay kinakailangan. Maaaring pataasin ng isang gurong administrator ng paaralan ng kalidad ng guro sa kanilang gusali sa iba't ibang paraan. Increasing the capability of the teacher of effectively inculcate learning and for student to gain mastery of lesson and courses. Hinahati ng bawat isa ang kanilang curriculum sa ilang mga kasanayan o mga unit sa pagtuturo sa silid-aralan. Karaniwan, ang isang guro ay magtuturo ng isang paksa at pagkatapos ay magsasagawa ng isang pagsusuri upang idokumento ang pag-unawa ng mga mag-aaral sa unit na yun. Habang ang mga hindi nakakamit ng kanilang mga layunin ay bibigyan ng karagdagang mga pagkakataon upang mas lubos na maunawaan. The third is broadening the delivery of education outside school through non-traditional approaches to formal and informal learning, such as often universities and lifelong learning to adult learning. It is the outcome of deliberate efforts and arises from the learner's conscious determination to master a certain activity, schools, or field of information. It does not, however, have to follow a structured curriculum or be subject to external. Broadening the delivery of education outside school through non-traditional approaches to formal and informal learning, such as often universities and lifelong learning to adult learners. It is the outcome of deliberate effort and arises from the learner's conscious determination to master a certain activity, school, or field of information. It does not, however, have to follow a structured curriculum or be subject to external accreditation and assessment. Non-formal education is most commonly found in community setting. Lastly, revolutionizing the use of technology to boost educational paradigm shift that give importance to student-centered and holistic learning. It promotes individual growth and development by encouraging flexibility and adaptation. Educators can use technology to create a more student-centered learning environment. It is the outcome of deliberate effort and arises from the learner's conscious determination to master a certain activity, school, or field of information. It does not, however, have to follow a structured curriculum or be subject to external accreditation and assessment. Non-formal education is most commonly found in community settings. Lastly, revolutionizing the use of technology to boost educational paradigm shift that give importance to student-centered and holistic learning. It promotes individual growth and development by encouraging flexibility and adaptation. Educators can use technology to create a more student-centered learning environment. Dapat umaangkop ang mga kagaruan sa realidad na ito sa pamamagitan ng pag-eeksperimento ng iba't ibang teknolohiya at pagsubaybay sa pagkatuto na napakikinabangan sa pakikipag-ugnayan ng mag-aaral tulad ng mga ginagawa nila. Thank you.
So let us now discuss the last lesson in Module 4, which is the stakeholders in curriculum implementation. So before we begin in discussing the stakeholders in curriculum implementation, let us first define the word stakeholders. So, stakeholders are individuals or institutions that are interested in the school curriculum. Ibig sabihin, sila po ay yung binubuo ng grupo ng mga individual na interesado o may malaking maiaambag sa pagbuo at pagpapatupad ng curriculum ng isang paaralan. They are the one who put into action and give life to the curriculum. So these stakeholders are the learners, the teachers, the school leaders or principals or school heads, parents, community, and other institutions or organizations. And each of them has their own role in implementing the curriculum. So let's start with the learners. In curriculum stakeholders, learners are at the core of the curriculum. Learners have more dynamic participation from planning, designing, implementing, and evaluating. It is said that learners are the primary stakeholders in curriculum, and they are the very reason a curriculum is developed. Ang mga mag-aaral daw ang pinakang rason kung bakit nakabubuo ng curriculum dahil sa kanila isinasaalang-alang yung mga bagay na isasama o i-include sa paggawa ng curriculum. Kung ito ba ay makabubuti para sa kanila o kung makatutulong sa kanila na mas mag-grow at mas ma-develop. On the other hand, if there are factors na makakasama o hindi makabubuti sa mga mag-aaral, syempre hindi natin yun isasama. So, they make and unmake the curriculum by their active and direct involvement. So, how learners contribute to the realization of a planned curriculum would depend on the interaction and internalization of the different learning activities. So, sinasabi dyan na kung paano yung aktibong pakikihalubilo at partisipasyon ng mga mag-aaral, doon nakasalalay kung magiging maayos ba o epektibo yung curriculum na nagawa. However, the degree of their involvement is dependent on their maturity. For instance, if the learners are from high school or college, they are more participative. So there is this perception and experience from other teachers saying that learners' involvement is dependent on their maturity. Kung ang learners daw ay nagmula sa high school or college, mas active sila at mas participative. Maybe because they have enough confidence to share their opinions, their thoughts, and insights on the lesson or discussion. So, mas nakapagbibigay sila ng mga opinion, mas nagkakaroon sila ng chance na makapagsalitan o makapagpalitan ng insights. So, marahil ay dahil na rin sa mga knowledge na nag-gain na nila o dahil mas marami na silang mga kaalaman compare sa elementary students. On the other hand, whether learners are from elementary or college level, they can make or break curriculum implementation by their active or non-involvement. So sabi dyan, kahit anong level naman daw, sa kanila pa rin nakasalalay kung ano yung kalalabasan o magiging resulta nung paggawa ng curriculum. So, next is curricularists place a lot of premium on the students for the learners to make the curriculum alive. So, sabi dyan, curricularist ang tawag sa mga taong involved sa paggawa at pagbuo ng curriculum. So, sinasabi dyan na binibigyang pansin nila o pinagfofokusan nila yung mga estudyante kung ano yung mga kailangan nila para mas maging maayos at mas maging aktibo o epektibo yung curriculum na ginawa o ginagawa nila. So, lastly, it is said that a written curriculum that does not consider the students will have a little chance to succeed, which for me is true. Because what's the essence of making curriculum if it will not benefit the students? Hindi ba kaya nga tayo gumagawa ng mga polisiya at mga gabay sa pagtuturo ay upang maging mas madali ito para sa mga mag-aaral, para mas madali nilang maintindihan yung lesson at mas maging aktibo sila or mas maging aktibo yung discussion na magaganap sa pagitan ng guro at mag-aaral. So, let us proceed sa second stakeholders ng curriculum, which is the teachers. So sabi dito, teachers are curricularists or sila yung curriculum developers and implementers. So sabi, teachers are stakeholders who plan, design, teach, implement, and evaluate the curriculum. So the primary role of teachers is planning and writing the curriculum. Sila po o isa sila sa mga nagplaplano, gumagawa at bumubuo ng curriculum. Pero ano ba ang nilalaman ng curriculum? Dito sa curriculum, nakalagay o nakapaloob kung ano ba yung mga expectations ng kung ano yung mga ituturo at kung ano yung mga expected na gagawin ng mga estudyante, yung mga activities na gagawin nila, performances, and other assessments that will test or evaluate their learnings. So, or kung ano ba yung mga natutunan at natandaan ng mga mag-aaral. So, sinasabi rin na the most important person in curriculum implementation is the teacher because they are the curriculum maker, or the curriculum developers wherein he or she writes a curriculum daily through a lesson plan, a unit plan, or a yearly plan. Sa lesson plan na ginagawa nila, nakatala rin doon yung mga activities na ipapagawa sa mga students. So, in writing the curriculum, they address the goals, needs, interests of the learners by creating experiences from where the students can learn. So, next, sabi dito, better teachers foster better learning. So, paano ba sila magiging better teacher or paano nga ba tayo magiging better teacher? Ano yung dapat natin gawin? So, well, we need to continue with our professional development to contribute to the success of curriculum implementation. Hindi lang natatapos yung pagkalap o pagtanggap natin ng information kapag nakatapos na tayo ng pag-aaral. We continue to gain knowledge even after nating makagraduate. Yung mga experiences natin, yung mga nararanasan natin sa pang-araw-araw nating pagtuturo, hindi lang naman tayo ang natututo sa pakikipagsalamuhan natin sa mga estudyante. Maging tayo rin na mga guro ay natututo mula sa kanila. So next, sabi dito, teachers should have full knowledge of program philosophy, content, and components of curriculum, and ways of teaching. Kung may tao man na dapat mas nakakaalam o mas unang makaalam ng mga nilalaman at kung paano isagawa yung mga nakasulat o nakatala sa curriculum, yun na yung mga guro. Why? Because they are the one who plans and develop it. Dapat mas alam natin yung mga nakapaloob doon para mas maging maayos at mabisa o epektibo yung pag-implement natin ng curriculum. So next, a teacher designs, enriches, and modifies the curriculum to suit the learner's characteristic. So sa paggawa ng curriculum, hindi lang tayo basta gumagawa. Just like what I have said earlier, we have to consider the needs of our learners. Kailangan yung curriculum na gagawin natin ay ma-meet yung mga pangangailangan ng ating mga estudyante upang sila ay matuto, mag-grow at mas ma-develop. So when a curriculum has been written, the teacher's role is to implement. So ang role ng teachers will now shift from planning to doing. Dito ipatutupad na nila yung nabuo nilang curriculum para sa learners, and doing here implies guiding, facilitating, and directing activities which will be done by students. Siyempre, pagkatapos makabuo ng curriculum, hindi naman natatapos lang yun doon. Kailangan natin tong i-implement or ipatupad kung ano man yung mga napagplanuhan at nabuo natin. Dito malalaman natin kung naging epektibo ba o naging maayos ba ang magiging resulta nito. Some of the roles that teachers do in curriculum implementation are number 1, guiding, facilitating, and directing the activities of the learners. Second, choosing the activities and the methods to be utilized. Third, choosing the materials that are necessary for the activity. And fourth, evaluating the whole implementation process. And Lastly, making a decision whether to continue, modify, or terminate the curriculum. So let's proceed to the third stakeholder of the curriculum implementation, which are the school leaders or school heads. So number 3, school leaders are curriculum managers. So principals and school heads have important roles in curriculum implementation process in schools. They supervise curriculum implementation, select and recruit new teachers, admit students, procure equipment and materials needed for effective learning. So, malaki rin po ang gampanin ng mga principals or school heads dahil sila ang tumatayong ugat o pinakang pinuno ng schools. If you are to compare them in family structure, they are the one who plays a very hard and challenging role dahil kailangan hands-on sila sa pag-supervise kung maayos ba yung pag-implement ng curriculum, kung epektibo ba ito, ganon. So, sila ang nagde-decide kung tama bang isama itong particular part na to sa curriculum. Chine-check nila kung okay lang ba yung laman nito, kung hindi ba makasasama sa estudyante, pati na rin sa mga kaguruan. So, second, they should understand fully the need for change and implementation process. So, kailangan din nilang maintindihan yung mga parte o ano bang part ng curriculum yung nangangailangan ng pagbabago. Kung yung ways or methods of teaching ba ng mga guro ay hindi epektibo, yan. Magsusuggest o iisip sila ng ibang strategies para maayos ito. So, they also should be ready to assist the teachers and the students in the implementation. Diyan, sinasabi na kailangan ding handa sila na umagapay, gumabay at tumulong sa mga kaguruan at mga estudyante kung mayroon mang problema. Kailangang nandyan sila at nakagabay sa pagpapatupad ng curriculum upang alam nila kung ano yung mga nangyayari at kung nagiging maayos ba yung pagpapatupad nito. So, one of their roles is the communication line, which should be open to all concerned. So, they should be committed to change and should employ strategies to meet the needs of the teachers and the learners, like buildings, books, library, and other needed resources. So, para ma-address yung mga problems na kailangang pagtuunan ng pansin, kailangan na open sila. O open siya sa mga suggestion or open siyang marinig yung mga concerns ng mga teachers. So, kung may mga bagay ba na kailangan ang mga kaguruan na makatutulong sa pagpapaigting at mas maayos na pagtuturo. Kung may mga kailangan bang estudyante o ang paaralan. For instance, the school needed additional computers dahil mas lumalaki na ang populasyon ng paaralan. Siyempre, kakailanganin na rin nila ng mas maraming equipment o kagamitan to support the needs of the learners. Dito papasok yung pagpaplano nila for the improvement of school facilities and physical plans. So kapag sinabing school head or principal, ang pumapasok sa isip natin ay sila yung namumuno o sila yung mamumuno. At sila yung may karapatang magdikta kung ano ba yung mga dapat at hindi dapat gawin ng mga kaguruan. So tama naman, but we must also bear in mind that kasabay ng kanilang pribilehiyo na diktahan ang mga kaguruan ay ang maayos na pamumuno at pakikisama niya sa mga ito or sa mga kaguruan for them to be able to build a good and strong relationship. So that's all. And thank you for listening.
So parents should offer resources, supervise their children, and volunteer at school activities to cultivate a positive relationship with principal, teachers, and keep the school informed about the homework, curriculum issue, and child development. So, as attendants of the school, to assistant in the classroom, parents, on the other hand, support and influence the curriculum implementation through financial resources such as school fees. So, furthermore, parents may assist in monitoring and assessing the curriculum implementation. So, they also act as a bridge between children and the school administration by supplying the students with materials that are necessary in the curriculum. We know that they may be not available at the school, but especially for children with the special education needs, parent may assist instructors in monitoring the children's behavior and social development. Parents can obtain trustworthy information about the curriculum development by asking their children or instructor to the school administration. So next is community as a curriculum resources and learning environment. So community is an extended school ground and learning environment. All barangay leaders, the elders and other citizens and the resident of the community have a stake in curriculum. It is bigger school community that becomes the venue of learning. Next is it is rich natural human resources of the community can assist in educating the children. The community is a reflection of the school influence, at the school is a reflection of a community support. So meaning curriculum implementation is most in when the community understand and supports it and when a facilities for ideal school structure and learning activities are available. So we need to know that it is appropriate resources and supported people are also required to help these teachers to a critical elements in a curriculum execution. The theoretical support for change provided the community in a form of financial assistance and other physical infrastructure. The community support foster a positive atmosphere of understanding and encouragement throughout the community. The attitudes of the parents are especially crucial here since such an attitudes about the program are quickly communicated to children where modification are intended. School community communication must be beyond mere information and include the maintenance of a continuous dialogue that allows the community to understand a rational such change. To understand the educational problems and procedures involved, and in many cases, to provide direct assistance for a curriculum implementation in a form of persons, school volunteers, personal forms of contribution to school effort. So next is the other stakeholders in curriculum implementation and development support government agencies. So these are the agencies that included in the other stakeholders in the curriculum. So these are DepEd, TESTA, CHED, local government unit or LGU. So non-government agency are organization and foundation that have a function and support to education. And one of them is the Gawad Kalinga or the GK and Synergia Organization Foundation and Metrobank Foundation. So to many stakeholder mentioned, we made numerous contribution to the school curriculum. Typically, they are composed of government bodies and non-government organizations that help to support implementing the curriculum. So we know that DepEd, TESTA, CHED are entities that regulatory and obligatory authority over a curriculum implementation. So the Professional Regulation Commission or the PRC and the Civil Commission or the CSC are the agency that are in charge in certifying the issuing teacher's license as well as affirming and confirming teachers appointment in public school. So, municipal government official and barangay officials are both part of a local government units or LGU. Some of the instructors are compensated from a local government budget and non-governmental organizations. So, non-government agencies or NGOs, so they are a non-profit organization and foundation whose primary mission is to promote education. So this include mention the following. So to strengthen the communities, so the Gawad Kalinga or the GK include the education, and GK's unwavering support for early childhood education is crucial. So to create a communities with Gawad Kalinga or GK implies to include educations to the youth is created each hamlet. So Synergia is one of a non-profit organization and foundation that promotes a fundamental education in focusing on reading, science, mathematics, English, and Metrobank is foundation contribution and ongoing teacher education and initiative. So that's all. Thank you. Great. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you for being here. For announcement, please do follow our social media platforms so you are always updated for our future events and webinars.
Thanks again for joining us today, and we will see you next time. Bye!
Community quarantine is hereby imposed in the entire of Metro Manila.
4 na buwan matapos ang dapat na simula ng school year 2020-2021, nakabalik eskwela na rin ang mahigit 24,000 estudyante sa mga pampublikong paaralan.
Tinago ng pandemya ang pamamaraan, walang harapan klase, kundi online. Modular ang mga leksyon.
Mahigit isang linggo na lang, pasukan na. Ang problema sa gamit sa eskwela ng nating kababayan, nadagdagan pa ng pagsubok
at mga magulang para patuloy na makapag-aral ang mga bata sa kabila ng sitwasyon.
A space with four walls on each side and a future on the inside. It is similar to a fantasy realm under ambition and hopes. The excitement, the smile on the student face are priceless, a light of a brightness in their eyes, longing for their aspiration. But everything may change in an instant. There will no more laughter and enthusiasm that can only be heard within the four walls of the room. It is just the two of us, being alone in a corner with a book and a laptop. Maybe we face significant challenges. Despite of difficulties, we students, teachers, continue to strive to struggle and overcome our fear. In the midst of an ordeal, we continue to struggle for reaching our ambition, and our world will not stop, continuously in rotation. From then until now, performing teaching and learning, claiming emotion, full of determination. In any challenge, wavering takes all as well as